But yeah, and in in this world, there are those that do that biologically as well as mechanically. So either one of those will kind of work. And yeah, the other thing about the nibblers is they don't wear clothes, but they tend to wear like different harnesses, like what you would see on a Wookiee essentially, and hats. They definitely like hats because there's something about a chinchilla wearing a Jeff cap, right, committing crimes.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. All right, so what are we talking about today?
We are talking about designing D&D races for your game that may not already exist, and I feel like I was put on the spot on this one, but I might have did it to myself.
All right, so the inspiration for this, if you happen to catch our video on riding motorcycles in D&D, I don't know the order in which these things are going to come out. That's this guy's job. But it's a scenario where we started a new campaign recently. It's a post-apocalyptic game, and Dave threw out this race, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I love it. One of the players in the game is like, if my character dies, there better be stats on these guys, because that's what I'm playing when we come back.
Yeah, that character now has plot armor. So here's the secret, right? Like, I will put things in a game, and if I don't suspect my players are going to mechanically interact with them directly, I don't fully stat it. And even if they did interact with these critters in my game, I would probably just reskin something else. But now it's like, Ted's like, we should make this as a race. And also our other player, Josh, screw you, Josh, is like, I want to play one of these. And so right now I'm just calling them nibblers. They could use a real name, but we're calling them nibblers, and it's because they're humanoid chinchillas that any place where you can see that's not fur is scaled. And they're called nibblers because they're always chewing on things. They usually carry with them like wood chips that they'll kind of chew on, like someone would chew on gum or something. Although I didn't describe it, one of the ones that kind of stands out from the rest, it'll probably come up at some point or another, from one of the motorcycle gangs, because one of the motorcycle gangs is the Fuzz Boys. And they are an outlaw motorcycle gang, meaning which not only are they a group that like to ride together leisurely and race, but they also commit crimes. So one of them does have a stogie made out of stone that they kind of chomp on all the time. And they're all like, they have, chinchillas in general just have different colored fur, but they have a bunch of different colored fur. Some of them unnatural. And like, that's something like I've been kicking around, whether that's going to be like part of their species, or is it going to be part of like something that they do aesthetically?
Is it essentially like a hair dye type scenario, which I know we had a number of different things like that within our, Beardomantic magic items, just like different, potions or oils that you could use to change hair color is definitely an option. It could be because we have chaos storms and things that change physical aspects of characters. But we also had talked about within this particular game doing body modification. So what if there are permanent changes that you could make to your hair or a portion of your hair, similar to the way we do in the real world, just with a more permanent effect? Yeah,
or if you're into, spoilers maybe, if you haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett, I don't think it's a big spoiler, but they have a group called the Mod Squad, and they're like, I guess like young adults that are like counterculture. They ride speeder bikes and they mod themselves out, right? Yeah. Like, so it's not like a huge spoiler, but yeah, and in this world, there are those that do that biologically as well as mechanically. So either one of those will kind of work. And the other thing about the nibblers is they don't wear clothes, but they tend to wear like different harnesses, like what you would see on a Wookiee essentially, and hats. They definitely like hats because there's something about, a chinchilla wearing a Jeff cap, right, committing crimes or being crime bosses. This just appeals to me. And, the other thing was I was like, all right. So I kind of want to give them long, scaly rat tails instead of floof tails. But then I'm thinking, like, what if, like, the males or females have one or the other?
That's definitely a direction. So, like, you had kind of loosely said, like, I put things in my game without actually statting them. So is there any work done conceptually on these guys?
As a race, no, not yet. But so I started thinking about it and started reading up on some fun chinchilla facts. But before we get into that, chinchillas are a beast, and the sponsor for this video is also coming out with a Kickstarter that is all about beasts, like 200 plus stat blocks worth of beasts.
So it's Bergen's Book of Beasts. It's 200 plus stat blocks of, beasts and beast-like, things. It's going to be 12 playable subclasses that are beastly related, 20 magic items, and the whole direction, whether you're looking for new wild shape options for your druid, new animal companions for your ranger, some possible new familiars, it's all incorporated right within this.
So there will be a link down in the description for the sign-up list to get early notification. Firestar Falling is an adventure that if you sign up and pledge in the first 48 hours as one of the early birds for the physical rewards, you're going to get this physical adventure as well. It's a pretty nifty early bird bonus if you ask me. Getting a whole free physical adventure is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So this is by Penny Dragon, the people who brought you the Mag of Holding. So definitely you got to go check it out and show them some love and some support.
All right, so back into chinchilla-like humanoids for your D&D game. So once we decided we were going to do this video, that got me thinking. It's like, well, how am I going to come up with, the abilities for and features for this race? Am I going to just like make stuff up? Or I was like, well, I could just look up and see, learn more about chinchillas to maybe use that as inspiration. So I'm going to cheat and use our cheat sheets here because there's a bunch of facts about chinchillas. We're going to teach you stuff today. And then we'll think about like, how can we use this information to turn them into a playable race in D&D. So chinchillas are very agile animals and can jump up to 5 feet in the air, which, they're little fluff balls. They're this big. 5 feet is a lot. I've seen my own chinchillas basically parkour around their cage, so if you're assigning stat abilities, which doesn't really seem to be a thing in D&D anymore.
Dex might be a way to go.
Dex might be a way to go, but also this might scream athletics or acrobatics as far as skill proficiency.
Absolutely. Dust baths are used for chinchillas to remove any oil or moisture from their thick fur. They also help keep their fur soft. You should not bathe a chinchilla in water, as this may cause them to lose their fur.
Which is a weird fact, but I knew that, like, we don't get them wet. They're like gremlins. You can't get them wet. And also, they like these dust baths. So what I thought about would be cool would be more like world building type stuff of like, maybe instead of bathhouse, they have dust house, right? With these tubs full of dust, and they go and kind of relax in it and kind of like roll in it. And also it'd be very specific to them. So you wouldn't find other people in there probably. Now I know with chinchillas, you can't just leave their dust bath in there with them because they're kind of dumb and they'll suffocate themselves.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but they look like this little birdhouse. They go in and they just like to spin around. And when they're young, it was hard to get them to do it. And then they got older and then you can't get them out of it. So it's kind of like actual kids. So chinchillas have open rooted teeth, which means they continue to grow throughout their lives. Because of this, make sure to provide plenty of chew toys for your pet. This kind of goes to like what we already talked about, right? They had the wooden chips, the stone stogies, and different things like that. Different interesting things that you can introduce. Now, this isn't like this and the dust bath thing. They're not going to be mechanical things, but I think they could be cool and interesting role playing things. Like if you're playing a nibbler, like you're probably always chewing on something because if not, those teeth will keep growing and it gets painful. They get in the way.
Mm-hmm. Cacotrophy is the process used by chinchillas to digest its food twice. So like, perhaps they could have any issues, or not issues, but they could have advantages on, any kind of ingested poison. Like it doesn't digest the same way for everybody else. So maybe they automatically have advantage on that.
Yeah, I would probably just use the dwarf, and several other races have it too, where they have advantage on those saves and resistance to poison damage. I would just do the generic thing instead of making it specific because 5e is more like that anyway.
Sure.
And instead of like being more fiddly and noodly.
Sure.
Chinchilla fur is considered the softest in the world, 30 times softer than human hair. Chinchillas also have 50 or more hairs per follicle as opposed to humans who only have one. Now, this is another role-playing thing. I could just see other races be like, or species always wanting to touch them and then be like, dude, why are you touching me? It is so rude. You know, not necessarily a mechanical thing.
Yeah. Red blood cells in chinchillas can hold more oxygen than other rodents. This is due to their natural living conditions at high altitudes. So this could kind of go along with the things where they could hold their breath for longer than normal. Whether you wanted to go with like the lizard folk who can do it for a certain duration, or whether you wanted to give them something else.
Well, so the Goliath actually have an ability that has them acclimated to higher altitudes, so you could literally just rip that ability off and give it to them.
All right, so I got some more here. Fur slip is known as the chinchilla's natural defense against predators. This allows the chinchilla to release large patches of fur, leaving their would-be predator with a lump of fur. This could be something that they could do like once a day to like just kind of auto get out of a grapple check.
Yeah, either that or they have advantage on acrobatic escape checks. I think it uses acrobatics for escape would be a possibility as well.
Chinchillas can communicate with each other using barking, chirping, and grunting noises, along with squeals. I think that just falls into they can communicate, so I don't think that's going to really apply.
They have their own language, right? Which other people could learn and emulate, which would be more difficult. And that's why people just call them nibblers, because their own language is really hard. It's what they call themselves is hard for other people to replicate, because it literally is barking, chirping, and squeals.
When eating, chinchillas tend to sit on their haunches and use their front paws to hold food. A little fact about Ted. I love rodents that do this.
Yeah.
Like anything
with little hands, right?
Yeah, anything with little hands. I love squirrels. They're one of my favorite animals. My daughter has a mouse, and just watching them kind of like sit back, hold their food, and eat. It's corny, but it's absolutely adorable, and I love it.
Well, because it's animals doing people things, right? Yeah. It's kind of what it is, but also because we're making them humanoid and anamorphic, kind of does not apply.
And then baby chinchillas are called kits.
Yeah. So from there, what we can extrapolate, I think, is they have the acrobatics. I would say they could have acrobatics or athletics, player's choice.
Oh, I like that.
Right. And then and instead of worrying about them losing their fur to get away from escape grapples and stuff, it's just like, well, they have these skills to use already. I wouldn't even give them advantage.
Okay, sure.
We'll just attribute it to the skills. Now, depending on what kind of GM you are, you could say they get both, or you could say they get to pick one or the other. The other thing is high altitude. The adaptation or whatever it's called, it's not like it's almost a ribbon ability. How much is it going to come up in our own world that we're playing in? Like things might have changed some, so that might not even come up. It's not that big of a deal. Also, it wasn't listed in these facts, but chinchillas actually do much better in colder climes because they're used to being in the mountains than they do in hotter climes, right? So you could even give them. You could give them resistance to the cold. It would be very similar to the mountain, the mountain-born ability of the Goliaths. And then finally, the poison resistance. And I think that's a pretty good kit right there.
I think that is pretty solid. They'd get, the nibbler plus one other language. I'm going to throw this out there, and, you can make it decide. Nibbler could be kind of like the slang, maybe not slur, but like the slang name for this. And maybe we want to throw this out there and allow our fans to kind of throw out some names.
Yeah.
And if something speaks to you, we can kind of take that in.
We would definitely up to hear some ideas for names. Also, I was thinking maybe a bite attack, because chinchillas can chew through anything. In my experience, if it's not glass or metal, they chew through it. We gave up on giving them their little creature habitat houses because
they eat them.
They just eat them, and then there's they are made with nails too. So I'm like, I don't want you guys to stab yourselves.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, chinchillas tend to be jerks. Like we've got two of them that are brothers, and there used to be ramps that would go from the different levels of their home. Unfortunately, they ate them all because they were not made of metal. But one of them would be trying to go up or down, and the other one is at the other end trying to flip the ramp over and flip them off of it. So there's that. Chinchillas are probably chaotic evil.
I would not necessarily say chaotic evil, but chaotic, sure.
Yeah. Chaotic, sure. I don't know where that falls on the spectrum.
I meant like chaotic as a staple, and allow the good, evil, or
Comma,
neutral.
sure.
Yeah. Punctuation.
No, yeah. So, what do you guys think? Would you allow this race into your game? How would you do it? Do you create new species for your D&D games and add them to it? Let us know in the comments below. Share some of your thoughts, your ideas. What would you have a better name than Nibblers? All right, it's not the most original name. I know, I get it. But share your ideas with the Nerdarchy community in the comments.
While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, even go ahead and click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays we drop new videos here on the channel, so come on back. This isn't the first time that we've made stuff for D&D in the game. We did a Spell Eater Barbarian path over on the website, and then we did a video about it, and you can see the card to that video up here.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.